Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. News hot off the press that Michael Hunter, the rising heavyweight contender, has signed a promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing USA. So you can see here on screen, here is the press release from matchroomboxing.com announcing Hunter signing with Matchroom Boxing USA. Little promo poster, welcome to the team Michael Hunter. And then we will get straight into the brief release, followed by a few thoughts, because while this isn't exactly unexpected, it does open some possibilities because he's going to be fighting in the United States. This is what this is signaling here. But Las Vegas heavyweight back on May 25 as he eyes big names in 2019. Michael Hunter has signed a promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing USA. Hunter, 16, 1 and 11 KOs, has impressed at heavyweight, having moved up in weight following a world title clash with pound-for-pound star Alexander Usyk in April 2017, claiming 4 wins on the trot with impressive stoppages over Martin Bakole in London in October and then Alexander Ustinov in Monte Carlo in December. Victory over former world title challenger Ustinov landed Hunter the WBA international strap, and he sits at number 12 in the WBA rankings, higher still with the IBF at number 10. The 30-year-old Las Vegas man will return to action on May 25th at the MGM National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland, against an opponent to be announced tomorrow. And the bounty cannot wait to get back in the ring and continue his rise in the rankings as he hunts down the big names. I am delighted to have signed this deal with Matchroom Boxing USA, said Hunter. I want to thank Eddie for the opportunity, and I cannot wait to showcase my skills live on DAZN. I have proved already that I can be a force at heavyweight with 4 wins since moving up a year ago, and I feel ready to test myself against the world title contenders to prove that I can win a world title. There are some great fights out there to be made, and I am prepared to take on anyone. And now we move on to Eddie Hearn here. I am delighted to welcome Michael to the Matchroom Boxing USA stable, said Hearn. The heavyweight scene is hotter than ever, and Michael is a dangerous proposition for anyone at the weight. Michael will be back in action on May 25th, and then looking to put his name in the mix for massive fights in 2019. So a number of things to touch on and highlight from this announcement of Michael Hunter joining the Matchroom Boxing USA promotional stable. So that means he joins the likes of Jarrell Miller and also Nikosi Solomon, who are also with Matchroom Boxing USA fighting on DAZN. And we also have other guys like Filip Hrgovic and Alexander Usyk. They're on co-promotional deals that see them fighting on Matchroom cards, potentially both in the United Kingdom and the United States. And Usyk, he is fighting on May 25th. Hunter will be appearing on his undercard, Usyk taking on Carlos Takam. And you may have noticed there that they were talking about Usyk in this press release a couple of times, especially in respect of the loss that Hunter had to Usyk. Obviously, Usyk, the cruiserweight king. So, you know, a loss to Usyk is not exactly a real blot to have on his record. And it was quite a competitive fight in spots, although Usyk ultimately got the win there. And Hunter, he's proven at heavyweight that he does have the potential to go some distance within the division, although I think that he's been carefully matched to some degree so far, that the opponents that he's been in with, they've been actually good matchups in terms of his style, and he was all wrong for Martin Bakole and ultimately stopped him late in that fight. It was a very, very good performance and an upset performance, and Martin Bakole didn't really have an answer to Hunter's movement, his quickness, some of his unorthodox tactics that he did deploy in that fight. And the Ustinov fight, well, that was at short notice. No one really thought that Ustinov was going to sort of be much chop in that fight, given he was, over 40 years old, and basically it was a last hurrah before retirement, effectively. So Michael Hunter, 2 notable wins since moving up to heavyweight. He's also fought Iago Kaladze. That's, got a little bit of credit with it, but Kaladze, he's been beaten quite a few times recently. He also is a former cruiserweight. But Hunter, yes, he does actually have the potential to be in some big fights, but May 25th, it doesn't look like it's going to be anyone of note, just by the way that some of that wording was sort of pitched and the way it was couched, talking about massive fights potentially later in 2019. There was a lot of talk that Alexander Povetkin was going to be a potential opponent for Michael Hunter in his next fight, and that doesn't appear to be the case. I think if he was fighting Povetkin, potentially that could have been its own event in the United States, potentially. So it'll be interesting to see who they announce. it may just be little more than a tick-over fight just to get him back in the ring, get some action, you know, under his belt for 2019, and then on to the next one, which you would hope would be a better opponent. But maybe we will be surprised. But the way that this is sort of being pitched and couched here, not exactly expecting the world when they announced Hunter's opponent. And Povetkin, if he isn't fighting Michael Hunter, and obviously we know that he decided not to face Alexander Usyk, and Usyk is now facing Takam. Who's Povetkin going to be facing? He's also been working with Matchroom, and there had been some talk he would be on Anthony Joshua's undercard if he had have fought at Wembley in April. Obviously that didn't happen. The Usyk fight's not happening. Maybe that will happen later in the year. But Povetkin, it's an open question. Maybe Dillian Whyte, we will have to see. But Hunter signing on, fighting in the United States, and this is with DAZN here, joining the Matchroom USA stable. That signals that he will be campaigning in the United States, probably exclusively now. Otherwise, it could have just been a more broader, he signed with Matchroom Boxing. And obviously others who signed just with Matchroom Boxing have been fighting in both the UK and also the US. But this is Matchroom USA, so he joins Miller and Nikosi Solomon. There's potential for fights down the line, maybe with Filip Hrgović, and who knows, maybe a rematch as well with Alexander Usyk. Mentioned in here a number of times, and there could be some scope if Usyk decides to have another fight before fighting Anthony Joshua. What about Michael Hunter? Or maybe this could be something for down the line after Usyk potentially fights Joshua or whoever else. You know, this rematch is always going to be there, and I'm sure Hunter would like to, at heavyweight, try to exact some revenge for that defeat at cruiserweight, and he has talked about wanting to fight Alexander Usyk again. So maybe it's more possible now that he's in the tent with Matchroom USA. Usyk's going to be fighting probably in both locations, the UK and the US, but Hunter, I think, you know, maybe almost exclusively for the foreseeable future, is going to be fighting in the US. And who knows, now that he is with Matchroom USA, if Jarrell Miller, for example, loses to Joshua in June, maybe a Miller and Hunter fight could potentially be in the works for later in the year. There is some options there, and I know that they're looking to move Filip Hrgović, his team. He's promoted by Sauerland on this co-promotional arrangement with Matchroom. They're looking to move him quickly, so a guy like Hunter, that would be a really good step for Filip Hrgović too. Not to say that, you know, Hunter wouldn't have a chance in that fight, because obviously he would. He's a good heavyweight in his own right, although I think Filip Hrgović, Alexander Usyk, I do rate them as a cut above Michael Hunter. That's not taking anything away from Hunter, but for me, I still need to see more from Michael Hunter at heavyweight. I still think the matchups and the style matchups have been quite, you know, favorable for him so far, and maybe some of the enthusiasm and hype from fans around Hunter at the moment is exceeding potentially the actual achievements of what he's done so far. So I'm just sort of holding judgment on how good and how far Michael Hunter can go until I see a bit more, because a guy like Filip Hrgović would really fancy his chances against Michael Hunter if that fight was to be made. But anyway, this news, so Michael Hunter signing with Matchroom Boxing USA, will be fighting on DAZN. Next fight May 25th on the Alexander Usyk undercard. It's going to be quite a decent card, actually, that one, so it remains to be seen who he will fight later in the year, but it'll be interesting to see this ride from Michael Hunter. He's had a bit of a whirlwind in the division so far, and good luck to him. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.